Well, welcome along, guys. Another episode, another show, another example, another session of In Conservation With, which actually was born during the pandemic, during lockdown 2 years ago. And it's interesting. I was just chatting to Yifan backstage, for want of a better word, um, and I was saying that the world seems to be going back into a circle again because of the crisis of for fuel and stuff. People, I think, are spending more time at home, and that's seen a slight increase in the numbers of people actually physically here during these sessions. But they do watch them on record as well. So don't forget, if you are watching this in the future, you probably watch it on YouTube. And thank you very much. Before we go any further, I just want to thank our sponsors, and they include Leica Sport Optics, as well as CJ Wildlife. And as I often say, in fact, I always say, I read out their little mission statement, which is a team of passionate nature lovers and experts in garden wildlife on a mission to make nature accessible for everyone, whether you are a nature novice or a garden guru. They want to, should I say, inspire, educate, and provide the right tools to help wildlife thrive on your doorsteps. So that's CJ Wildlife. Thank you very much, guys, for sponsoring this. Tonight and this afternoon, because some people are living or watching this from the States, I'm with a guy called Yifan Li. Now, Yifan is actually in China right now, which means that this is midnight for him. And I've just seen him with his cup of cocoa. He's got his slippers on under that table, haven't you, Yifan?
Yes, yeah, to be honest, a little bit sleepy for me. That's why I need my coffee here. But it's really very nice to meet you, David, and to meet all of you guys.
Good. Well, we're very happy to have you here. Very excited to talk to you about conservation in China of birds. The thing is, we haven't met. You're right. And most people I do have on here I've met before, but we haven't met. I feel like I've already known you for some time. One thing that's interesting about you is that you spent a bit of time in Spain, a very tiny amount of time, yet your Spanish is 50 times better than mine.
Well, yeah, I lived in Spain for 4 years. Yeah, basically doing my master degree in Madrid. So we had to learn Spanish, right? Just like any Spanish guy, that just to understand the classes. Yeah.
Well, I think, it's amazing. I don't know whether it's because I'm English or born in England that I'm a bit lazy when it comes to learning languages, and I find it difficult as well because I think in the beginning you kind of expect people to be speaking English, and I think that's the way you're taught as opposed to something that's inbred. Well, it is inbred, I suppose, eventually, but it's something that you kind of just think everyone speaks English. So I think it's amazing that you and many millions of people can speak other languages other than your normal tongue. The other question I want to ask you is, are you impressed with my Oriental white stork on my shoulder?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's very nice bird. That's in fact that's endemic of East Asia, isn't it? And where did you find it?
I actually saw this in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe that Russia and China, certainly Russia, gifted Japan with Oriental white storks because they were actually, I think, extirpated from China, from Japan. And I
Yeah.
think the Russians gifted the Japanese people with several birds which they bred, and then kind of it went from there really. So it's quite a symbolic bird in Japan.
Yeah, but if you come to China now, I mean now at this time it's wintering time, right? And you're gonna find many of them, like in the Yangtze rivers, all of this area of East China.
Okay. Well, let's talk about China in a second, but let's learn a bit more about you. So, who are you and where have you come from? And by the way, where are you now and how are you? I should have asked you that in the first place. Where are you and how are you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah. So well, in fact, I prepared my presentation today, like some PPT slides, and I will give a little bit more introduction of where do I come from,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, and what is our town. But well, my name is Yifan, and I'm now in China, in Sichuan province, where the spicy food and where all the giant pandas live. And I'm a birder, and I'm also a naturalist and a conservationist. And I'm happy to be here. You know, half an hour is a very short time for me, but I hope to share a little bit of my stories and my thoughts with all of you guys.
Good.
And
Well,
if you come to China, and you will be more than welcome.
well, that's interesting because I was saying earlier to you that I just come from England to Spain. I'm in Spain now. I flew to Madrid late last night and I drove for 3 hours plus to get back to where I live in Extremadura in southwest Spain. And I was very tired. And I had my friend contact me to say that he'd found a yellow-browed warbler about an hour away from where I am. And I woke up in the morning thinking, there's no way this yellow-browed warbler can be there without me seeing it. So I then went off and searched for it, and the results of my labours are here.
Yeah.
That's it. But this is a very common bird in China, as you say.
Yeah, for us now. Was it calling? When you found it?
No, it was
No
hard
calling.
work. I had to sift through 1,000 chiff-chaffs to find that bird. But I think the point is, I mean, you know, we see birds in Europe come over from the east or the far east, and we don't even put a name to the country often. We just say Asia. And basically, us in the West, we know very little, I suppose, about birding in China. I mean, there was a time during the 80s when lots of people went to Bidahai. Is it Bidahai?
Beidahe, yes.
Bidahai.
Yeah, it's about, let's say, 100 kilometers from the capital city of Beijing. And it's on the coast area. So it's a very nice place to catch all of these seeps, you know, the Siberian seals, Siberian thrush, yeah, all of these Siberian seals.
Yeah,
Siberian crane, yep.
It sounds like an amazing place for migrants. And I personally have learned a lot more about birding in China because I have friends in Beijing now, and I follow the Beijing birding Twitter account. But for those who don't know, this is the old, there's a new version of this book, but these are all the birds in China. So we're talking about some serious numbers of birds here. Any idea how big your country list is?
Yeah, this is the old one. I think there are a total of about 1,300 species, something like that. And in the new version, that Dr. John McKinnon and his wife Monica and me as a translator, and the new version of this book include almost 1,500 species of birds, which is, you know, like 1/8 of the avian species of the world, I think.
It's amazing. And a lot of those birds you have, I mean, are birds that we dream of, certainly in Western Europe, you know, turning up. But they seem to just turn up in far-flung places like Shetland. So for most of us, we don't have a chance of seeing them unless we go to China. So I think on that point, let's see if we can. Should we start your PowerPoint so we can get to know a little bit about China? I'm going to be doing it, folks. So if you want to be seeing this in its full glory, then please switch to speaker view so you can see it clearly.
Yeah, thank you, David. Okay, so yeah, I'm so delighted to be here, and just in the next maybe half an hour, I'd like to share a little bit of our stories at birding and conservation in China. So my title, I put it, you know, David always puts big titles like bird conservation in China, but you know, for me, it's just a story from a naturalist to many conservationists. I like to introduce you guys the story of our two small NGOs. Okay, so can we put to next, or I can do it? Yep. So I divide my PowerPoint into the following 5 parts. And the first one is who I am. Please go to the next slide. David? Yes, thank you. So my name is Yifan, and E means one in China. It's a number, and Fan means normal. So combining two together, Yifan means one normal person. It's kind of like nobody, right? Yeah, I'm just nobody, a very common street boy in China. That the up left one was taken in Uganda, in Burundi, impenetrable forest, and where we were doing a checking for gorillas, for the mountain gorillas. And the picture on the right side is taken in Bali, Indonesia. Have you been there, David? Indonesia.
I personally haven't been to Indonesia, or nor have I been to Uganda either. So both new places. Nor have I been underwater like that, and nor have I been next to gorillas. So no on all fronts.
Yeah, because what I like to say is that I'm really a nature lover. I'm a naturalist, and from my childhood I really enjoy staying in the nature. So I like everything associated with the nature, with wildlife. And in fact, the picture on the right side is introducing my ex-job, my former job before I came back to China. So I was a diving instructor. I was a PADI diving instructor. So I teach people to dive. Yep. So can we go to the next? And after my years living overseas, I came back to China like 5 years ago, and start from that time on, we started with our local stuffs. And in the next slides, I'd like to show you guys who we are. So we are located in Sichuan province, the place I've said before, like I think all of you guys must know the spicy food, and that's also where the giant pandas live. And I'd like to introduce you a little bit about the topography of China. And people always say that China have 3 steps. The very first step is very high, which is a very famous Tibetan plateau with an average altitude of about 4,000 meters above the sea level. And even with all of these highest mountains of the world, like the Everest, reaching 8,000 and something like that. And the second step is from northeast, the Inner Mongolia Plateau, to the southwest, the Yunnan Guizhou Plateau. And in between is our Sichuan province. That is to say that Sichuan province is located right in between the first and the second step of China, with an average altitude of about, let's say, 2,000 to 3,000 meters above sea level. And then the very shallow areas, we call it the third step of China. All of these mega cities are located in these areas, like, like the capital city of Beijing, like Guangzhou, and like Shanghai. So here is where we are, and where I am now in Sichuan province. And we are located in the south tip of Sichuan province. And we have 2 NGOs. One is Zigong Birdwatching Society. Zigong is the name of the city. And we are a very small city, but small for China, right? We have about, let's say, 4,000 square kilometers of dimension. So I don't know, is it big for you guys? But for us, it's a very, very small city. I think one of the smallest city of China and of
How many people
the
live
China.
there? What's the population?
The population, we have 3 million people here.
Yeah, that's quite small for China.
Yeah, it's very small for China, right? So yeah, the first NGO is called Zigong Birdwatching Society, and as the name indicates, that we are all of the bird watchers, right? And then from the year of 2018, that is to say, right after I came back to my town, that we founded the Leica Nature Conservation Center. So E means one, right? And Chu means interesting. So we'd like to create a very interesting and let's say an interesting platform for the local people, especially for the school kids that can enjoy the nature and can learn the nature with us. So that's basically the two NGOs we have here. So unlike the Birdwatching Society, the Leica Conservation Center, we focus in all of the wildlife. So not only birds, but we do a lot of other things. I'm gonna introduce you guys in the next slide. Yeah, what we do. So yep. Well, so as a group of hobbyists, the Zigong Birdwatching Society, I think like many other birdwatching societies in the world, so we basically do the same things. We organize birding tours, birding trips every month, and we also have this like a kind of like bulletin or like birding news. So we share the bird info, the bird records, and the bird alerts in our social medias. In China, we use a lot of WeChat, right? And also, before the pandemic, we organized some overseas tours, like we go to Borneo, we go to Uganda, and we go to Papua. Like we go for the bird of paradise, the BOPs. So this part, I call it like our hobby parts. And we also have citizen science because we are located in the very beginning of the Yangtze River. So we have many like wintering waterfalls in each winter. Basically, that's now. So every year we do this kind of bird surveys, like in the picture on the very top, and right on the left side, right on the right side, we also go for some night walks in the city parks, and we do surveys like invertebrates, like for amphibians and reptiles and things, etc. So, but all of us, we know that we basically, it's very hard to live by our hobby, right? So we have to get a career. So our career, we are working as a service providers. So basically, on one side, we do a lot of things with the school kids. Like we go to the schools, we take them to the parks, to the local communities. We do birdings, we do insect walks, we do like bat watches. And also at the night, we go out to attract the insect, like on the picture of the right top, you can see. Also, as myself lived in Japan and other city like of Europe, like in Madrid. So I speak a little bit of foreign languages, which is a little bit advantage of mine. So in recent years, we also introduced some good foreign language books to the Chinese audience, like the Guide to the Birds of China, like the education guide to the ducks. As you guys can see this picture, this was a guide for the ducks of Japan, and we import it, we translate it, and we add some species of ducks which are not in Japan but in China. So we make it like a duck book for all East Asia. So these books are very popular now in China, and we hope that there will be more and more people they go out for bird watching and they go out for duck watching, you know, because ducks are bigger, so it's easier for people to watch, and they are also very easy to spot, especially at this time, the wintering time. So these are basically what we do for live. And what I want to introduce you, what we were doing, and the interesting part is the next slide. So if we pass to the next slide, and here we can see, and a lot of people, right, like any pictures in China. And these are bird watching races, or we call it like bird watching competitions. We organize this on a basis of we have a joint action platform. It is basically like an association for bird watching associations. So we are association, right? We are bird watching society in Zigong City. And now in China, there are about 100 bird watching societies, bird watching associations in mainland China. But there's one association is a platform for all of these mainland China bird watching societies. The name is Rosefinch Center. So Rosefinch is one of the very common birds in China, and the rosefinches are distributed in like almost every province of China, except the island province of Hainan. And the Rosefinch Center, as I introduced previously, is a platform for all of these Chinese mainland birdwatching societies. Before the pandemic, in each year we organize these international birdwatching races, like in Longzhou, in Shanxi, and in Poyang Lake. Poyang Lake is very famous because if you guys like to see the Siberian cranes, and I think more than 90% of the wintering population, they come to Poyang Lake. It's in the lower sources of Yangtze River. So I like to introduce the Longzhou birdwatching race in my next slides because it's quite a good example for me, and I think also for you to understand a little bit what we do here. So if we go to the next slide, David, thank you. So Longzhou is a town, it's not a city. It's a county in China. And it's under the Guangxi Autonomous Region. You know, in China, we have like 34 provinces and autonomous regions. And this town is located on the very border of China and Vietnam. It's about 200 kilometers to Nanning, which is the capital city of Guangxi Autonomous Region. So it's a very small town, about, I think a little bit more than 2,000 square kilometers. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, it's 2,311 square kilometers, and it's bordering Vietnam. Here we can see the map. I'm sorry I couldn't find the English one because we don't have access to Google here. But well, you can see it's very close to Vietnam. It's bordering with Vietnam, in fact. And it's a very small town, and the agriculture is the main income for the local peoples. That is to say, that's the majority of the local people, they are farmers. So they have like sugar canes, like we can see in this picture, and also like dragon fruits and bananas. And that's what the main products what they do, and that's what they did previously. And what we do here, if we go to the next slide, is that here is also a paradise for many different wildlife, like the white-headed leaf monkey, also named as white-headed black langur, and the toki gecko. It's a reptile. In fact, it's very widely distributed in all of these Southeast Asia, but I think Guangxi and Yunnan provinces, I mean, south of China is almost the north border of its distribution. The same case happened to this bird, a very beautiful bird. It's named like chestnut-capped babbler. Also, it's very widely distributed. We can find it like in most of the countries of Southeast Asia. But if you want to see it in China, and you have to go to Guangxi and Yunnan, I mean the south provinces of China. And then we have some endemics, like the limestone leaf warbler. And David mentioned is a yellow-browed leaf warbler. And we have many, all of these Philoscopus warblers here in China. But this one, the distribution is very narrow. As the name indicates us, it's only distributed in the limestone areas, all of these karst areas of South China. And then on the very right side, we have the Nonggang babbler. The name Nonggang is exactly the same name of the nature reserve. The Nonggang Nature Reserve is located inside of the Longzhou County. So that's why we go there and we organize bird watching races, and these races are international before the pandemic. To see, we want people from all over the world to join us. And it's very important to know that it's free of charge. So it doesn't mean that you don't pay your tickets and visa, but in fact, the only thing you have to pay is your ticket and visa. So after you prepare your tickets and visa, and the rest, all of these costs will be covered by us, or better say, will be covered by the local government. Because as I introduced previously, the place was like very poor places. It's the main income for the local people are agriculture, and the local government, they want to promote the eco-tourism as an alternative income for the local farmers. And I will introduce you what this happened. If you go to the next slide. And yes, you can see here, and we do birding in different methods. Some people, they do it on walking, and also there are plenty of hides, local hides. Each hides, their owners, the hide owners, they will charge a little bit of entrance fee, but also there are some hides free of charge. And of course, during the races, the hides, you can go into any of these hides free of charge. But for the race, you cannot count the birds you see in the hides in your record. So for a bird watching race, you have to only count the birds you find outside of the hide, which is logical, right? But this picture are just to give you an idea how it works. That there are many birds, like 300 species of bird species we recorded in Nonggang area. And there are also other birds. We don't even need a hide to meet it. If we go to the next slide, the very famous Nonggang babbler. Yeah, as you can see on the picture of the right side, they don't even need a height if you want to meet it and take, like great pictures with your big lens. Well, you can even do it with small lenses, right? Because they are not afraid of people. In fact, they are already habituated. If we go there and they come out, well, there maybe I think there are different discussions about if it's really good to to attract the bird and to feed them with mealworms or something. But I think there's a saying that it's kind of sacrifice that some birds, the people attract them with hides and mealworms, and so the people will appreciate the beauty of the nature, get nice pictures, and then the majority of the population, they they are still human scaled, right? So they don't come to so close to the human beings. So in this way, we conserve the majority of the wild population just by sacrificing, this small portion of population. So well, this is one of the sayings, but for me, on another side, I think it's very good income for the local farmers, because if we go to the next slide, we can see the changes that they do. They used to be farmers and hunters. Well, poachers, better saying, because China now we have very restricted laws for wildlife protection. So there's basically no legal hunters, but only illegal poachers. So the local people, they used to be farmers and hunters. And now they become rangers, they become guides, nature guides, and they become hide owners. So it's very good alternative income for them, isn't it? And also there are many old houses of the local Zhuang people. As Guangxi is an autonomous region, so the local people that belong to the Zhuang minority nationality, and now they can have their homestays and guest inns, and even I think last year they built a big hotel. So that's so that's what we bring to them. So that it's a big change for them. And if we go to the next slides, yeah, the very first Longzhou Birdwatching Society started in 2017. It is exactly the year I came back here to China. It lasted for 3 days and 2 nights, and there were only 5 recommended routes. Well, we can also go other places because the whole Longzhou County is a race ground, but there was 5 recommended routes, and we recorded 150 bird species. Like I said before, there are a total of 300 bird species in this town, so we recorded like half of them. And if we go to the next slides, we can see like only 2 years later, there were 12 recommended routes and only 1 group, like the group of Mark, your friend, my Dutch friend, and Rafael Armada, and our Spanish friend is a Catalan, and only and Martin, only 4 of us, we recorded 126 bird species out of 86 bird species recorded by all of the groups, because different groups, we may recorded different bird species, right? And so we got the winning prize of that year. And also the interesting thing is that the local people, they really get very good advertisement of this kind of bird tourism or ecotourism. So there are more and more Chinese photographers and even some international photographers, bird watchers, nature lovers. They go to this small town. And if we go to the next slide. So after that, we plan to do a lot of other things. What we want to do after this Longzhou bird race. If we go to the next slide. We planned to do this cross-bordering birding race. As I introduced previously, this small town is on the border to Vietnam, right? So on a basis of 3 days and 2 nights, the idea is that we can maybe go to the Vietnamese side on the second day and maybe sleep 1 night and come back on the third day, or maybe do a full day bird watching and then come back to China on the same day for overnights on the Chinese side. So this was our idea. That was what we wanted to do. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, as I just mentioned, the one I've done with Rafa, with Mark, was 2019, right before the pandemic. And we planned to do this on the 2020, but unfortunately we couldn't do it yet. But there's still other things we wanted to do. Like if we go to the next slide, as I introduced before, and the Sichuan province is located in between the first and the second steps of the topography of China. So Sichuan basically is the main gate to Tibet. So Tibet is a very amazing places, and there are a lot of wildlife, especially all of these specialties, all this endemic of the Tibet plateau, like snow finches, like all of these laughing thrushes, Tibetan foxes, very big squared head, and the blue ships, and well, the upland buzzard we can see it in many other places, but the Himalayan vulture and some like falcons, and well, in a word, many bird and other wildlife we can meet in Tibet. So the idea is that we want to make sure that if people want to go to Tibet, they first come to Sichuan. They can have a stay in Sichuan. They can visit the pandas. They can go to the raining zone of West China and go birding with us. And then we will go a little bit higher and higher to Tibet. This is also for the consideration of our health, because if we suddenly we rush to a very high altitude, we may feel sickness, isn't it? So this is what we want to do. We want to make Sichuan as a main gate to all of this ecotourism to Tibet. Also, if we go to the very last slide of my PPT, and here in Zigong City, I put it on the very last slide. Zigong is famous for our dinosaur fossils, and I don't know if there are some dinosaur fans today, but I like to say that if we watch the movies like Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, we will find one thing very curious, that many of these dinosaurs appeared in all of these Jurassic series of movies. They are not from Jurassic area, but the only Jurassic world in this planet is Zigong City, because all of the dinosaur fossils, when we excavated here, they are from Jurassic. So, and also there is a theory said that the birds, they are feathered dinosaurs. So the dinosaurs, they never extinct. They're still with us. Like we can see in this picture on the right side, the Mandarin ducks. We have it now, and many rivers and maybe some small pools in our city. And now we recorded 336 species of bird species in Zhejiang City. It is not that big city, like comparing with other, mega cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, but it's very good, to come here and do some birding and even to meet the ancestors, the bird ancestors, the real Jurassic world. So that's what we want to do, especially after the pandemic. We really cross our fingers. We hope it will, we also hope that China can open the gates as soon as possible so we can welcome all of the bird watchers and nature lovers and to our places. So finally, yeah, that's our story. That's at the very beginning. I am a naturalist from my childhood, but now, especially from 5 years before to now, and slowly, we are now 2 NGOs, the Yichu Nature Conservation Center and the Zhejiang Bird Watching Society, with a total of more than 100 members. And we are a group of conservationists. We involved in many things like I introduced previously. And we really want to know and to protect our wildlife and want to show you guys the beauty of our Mother Nature. So thank you very much, and sorry for my English because it's been like 3 years, no, since the pandemic. It's a long time not really speak English. And
no, you've done very well, and thank you so much for showing us another view of well, not another view, the view of China, and especially your region as well. In fact, I think that you are the first person ever in Conservation With to talk about dinosaurs. Just made me think, yeah, maybe we should talk to someone about dinosaurs one day.
Sure.
So yeah, it's nice to know that there is this whole feeling about conservation in China. Because that was one question I was going to ask you. Are there? I mean, China's got a huge population. Is there many people now becoming interested in conservation, and are they also aware of the situation regarding climate change? Is that something that's really something big in China at the moment?
Yes, of course. And as I mentioned previously, that Tibet Plateau is like the peak of the world, isn't it? Like the third pole of the world. So we can feel like very face to face, like we can see the decline of the ices, the snows each year. So, for us, it's like we are seeing it, we are watching it every year. Yeah, that's also why we really want to welcome all of the people. They want to appreciate the nature. They want to know the Tibetan Plateau. That's why I put in my plan that we want to make Sichuan as a gate to Tibet. So if we want to come to visit Tibet, you can first come to Sichuan, and slowly we go climbing. And we see the changes.
Yeah, that have to be a very slow climb for me. So there's changes. I mean, let's talk about the birding side of it first. You organize these bird races. Is it purely just a bird race in terms of trying to see as many species in 24 hours, or is it like other bird races where there's sponsorship, or or is it just purely a public relations thing for local people?
Well, I will say it's like kind of mixed things, right? In China, we do a lot of mixed things. We are very efficient. Well, it's just kidding, but Yes, I think it's kind of mixed because yes, it's firstly it's a pure bird watching race competition. That is to say, in terms of to record as many bird species as we can, and also we set other prices like like new record, right? Like maybe one group of people they didn't find mm, the most of the bird species, but they find a new record for the area. So that's good, isn't it? And also maybe a good picture. We we select the most beautiful picture, the most beautiful moment of the race. So basically, after all, it's a publication. It's a publicity. I mean, it's an advertisement, right? It's an advertisement for the local people, for the local tourism. So that's the idea. It's not only the hardcore bird watching because this is after all it's like to minority, isn't it? Like, especially that like for China, that like I heard that like 1/10 of the English people are bird watchers, and now I think in China maybe 1 of 1,000, one of yeah, something like that. Yeah,
So one in 8,000.
I mean one, I mean in 1,000 people,
Yeah, there's
yeah, there's only one bird watcher in China, so something like that. Yeah,
But are these
yeah.
people are they? Because like for example, I've been to, I mean Taiwan's one country, but also Japan maybe, where there's a lot of people with long lenses and they're out there taking pictures, but they're not actually knowing what they're taking pictures of, and sometimes they're taking pictures of just the prettiest bird, so they can sort of who's got the best picture on online. Is it
Well,
like that in China? Are people? I mean, I rather that's great. I'd rather them be having cameras and guns. But is that the case, or are they genuinely kind of fascinated with nature?
yeah, I mean, well, there are two definition of bird watchers, isn't it? Or birders. Like one definition is very wide, that like any people we appreciate the beauty of birds, like they use binoculars, they use telescopes, they use a camera, big lenses, all of these bazookas. And also there are people, just they are pure bird watchers. They only watch bird. They don't even take a picture. And now in China, I think it's kind of like mixed situation. There are more and more people. The Thanks to the fast growth of the economy. So there are more and more people, especially the retired people. So they can afford all of these expensive big lenses, and also there are many school kids, like I showed in my previous PPTs, and they started to do bird watching since they were very young, with like with people, people like you, yeah, David, or like us. So they get fascinated with nature. So they just watch because I don't think they or their parents will buy them any big lens, isn't it? So they just watch and they enjoy the feeling of being walking and staying in the nature.
A lot of people in the West, well, certainly in Britain anyway, when you talk about China and talk about nature in the same sentence, people automatically think about bush, those bush meat, wet markets, or wild bird trade. Is that changing? Is that something that is actually not true now, or not as true, or is that still a problem?
So are we talking China mainland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we are talking about China mainland, I think I just introduced in one of my PPT, the one of changes, right? Like because China has very strong, very restrictive laws of nature protection, and it is becoming stronger and stronger. So I don't think it's a problem now, for mainland China, because now the majority of the people, they know the idea of protecting nature, and in fact, that is a that is even like be planted into the mind of the public. So if we see some people, like, just for example, if in the park, that's there should be many ducks now in the winter time, right? And some people may go to feed them. And if one guy or one lady want to catch any of these ducks, and I'm pretty much sure that other people will go to say, no, you can't do that. And we don't even need to wait for the police or to any authorities, because the public, they already know what to do. So I think that's very good for mainland China. But yes, I also have to admit that, like comparing with mainland China, like other places of China, like like Hong Kong, Macau, and even Taiwan provinces, like these places, I think they have a little bit better conservation idea. So even mainland China, even we have a long path to go. But anyway, now in mainland China, I think the people, they're very, very good at.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've been hearing things about, for example, the developments on the estuaries and the coastlines, good
Mhm.
places for migratory shorebirds, and
Yep.
some of those places are now being developed. I'm not sure what the situation is now, but I know
Mhm.
I know that, for example, the spoonbill sandpiper was being threatened because where it was potentially wintering was also a place where the shoreline is being dredged or whatever. So that's why I asked the question. And don't get me wrong, you know, I think it's really bad for someone like me sitting here in Western Europe to point fingers when in Western Europe we are doing the same thing. It's very easy to point fingers. So I'm not. Please don't think I'm doing that. I'm just basically asking the question to see what how things have changed.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, fully understood. And yes, I really appreciate your question, and I really fully understand your concerns. I think that's very natural for any for any naturalist and conservationist, because myself is also involved into the spoonbill sandpiper project, and well, many shorebirds project. And you know what? And it's very interesting. In fact, a very fun fact to share with you guys. And all of you guys are very privileged to hear this, because I haven't published it yet, because shorebirds, and the main idea that think they migrate along the shores, along the coast, isn't it? But now in the inland, I mean, like in Sichuan province, as we can see where we are located, on the topography of China, and we find many flyways of these shorebirds, these sandpipers, that's amazing. And in these years, we published like three, yeah, and the fourth is coming, like new records for the provinces of shorebirds. So that's very interesting to know it, and it's very good to see that like the nature always find a way. So if they find the coastline is not that good, or maybe it's good but not that enough to hold the whole population, So they will find a inland way. They will find an express way. That's really funny.
Okay. Well, we're coming up to our time together in terms of our hour. So one question I'd like to ask you is what is your favorite? Actually, no, before I ask that question, where would you be in the world if you could be anywhere now?
Well, that's a very good question for me, isn't it? That's a and it's a very difficult question for me. And well, yeah, I think Spain. Spain is, like I lived there for 4 years and I feel it's like my second hometown. Yeah, in Madrid. And that's a city. It's a city that that you will never find the people that stare at you in very strange ways because we will have people from all over the world, because yeah, otherwise if you come to China, and especially, I mean, not mega cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, but if you come to inland cities like where I am, and people will, will look, whoa. So that it will never happen in Madrid. So I really like Madrid, and I hope I can, yeah, someday I can go back, and I still have the book, the small folleto. Yeah. Aves Comunes de Madrid.
Oh, okay. Very nice. And talking about birds, what is your favorite bird?
Yeah, this is also a very difficult question for me because I love all species of birds, but if you really ask me what is my favorite birds, I think maybe the pika, the magpie.
Oh,
Because a the magpie used to be one species, isn't it? So from the whole old world, we have only one species, from England to Japan, but now they are divided into three species. So we have a like Western magpie, we have like Oriental magpie, and we also have Tibetan magpie.
yeah.
So yeah, I in my master I study bioinformatics, and in recent years there are very good advance, a big improvement in the understanding of people to the nature is genes, the study of genes. And so yeah, magpie is a very good example. It is so common and we can find basically everywhere. And now we know there are three species, not one.
Yeah, amazing. All right, just to let you know, Zoomers, coming up on November the 10th, which is in a couple of days' time, we've got a guy called Baren van Gemeden, and he's going to be talking about the conservation of migratory birds. And on Monday, the 14th of November, we've got AJ Tegala, who'll be talking about, well, confessing about being a countryside ranger. He's a presenter and writer. And on the 21st of November, we have Amy Jane Beer, even, and she holds record now for being on in conservation the most. This will be her third appearance, and she's talking about her book called Flow, which has really gone down well. It's all about rivers. So we've got a load more stuff coming. Please take a look at the website, theurbanbirdworld.com, and check out the conservation with forthcoming interviews as well as the previous ones, because there's lots of stuff there to see. And also consider becoming a member of the Urban Bird World community, and you'll be able to see what happens next. But if you're not a member, you can't, because we're going to end it here. So Yifan, thank you very much for spending time. You better get yourself to bed soon because it's quite late for you. But and I hope one day I can come to Sichuan to see you and to hang out and do some birding.
Yes, you are welcome. Thank you, David. Muchas gracias. 谢谢.
De nada, de nada. And Zoomers, again, thank you so much for sparing your evenings to to come and be part of this. And I hope you're all keeping warm, because you know there's going to be cold months ahead if you live in the northern hemisphere, of course. So until then, until next time we meet, you know what to do, guys. Keep looking up.